Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Tuesday, September 16th after Trey Yesavage's record-setting Toronto Blue Jays debut. I'm your host, Zach Worden, joined as always by Jori Negin-Shecter, and we are set to be joined by a special guest later. It is Ryley Delaney of Jays Nation, who will join us to speak about Yesavage's debut. But before that, Jori, how are you feeling about Trey Yesavage?
I mean, that was electric. Record-setting in literal terms. Record-setting in terms of maybe vibes. That was amazing. Super fun to watch Yesavage absolutely dice up the Tampa Bay Rays. And all of a sudden, the questions begin to percolate about, is this a playoff starter for the Toronto Blue Jays?
Yeah, the most strikeouts by a Blue Jay in their debut with 9. He goes 5+ innings. Obviously, he gives up a hit to Yandy Diaz and then is pulled in the 5th inning, or in the 6th, excuse me. He gives up 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, the 19 strikeouts, or nine strikeouts, and 19 whiffs, and it was the highest whiff rate by a starter in their debut. And by overall count, the 19 was the 5th highest since whiffs have been tracked. So, the swing and miss stuff that Yesavage showed in AAA certainly played against the Tampa Bay Rays yesterday. He threw 69 pitches, 49 strikes. He's in the zone 49% of the time. And as we mentioned in our emergency pod, when he was recalled, that that was going to be important, right? Like he wanted to kind of be around that 50% mark, and he was right there. And, kind of rough start, gives up the hits at the beginning of the 1st inning, a run scoring double to Yandy Diaz, and then just completely settles in and dominates this Rays offense.
Yeah, I sent this to you yesterday. I'm just going to read it off again. It's from Sarah Langs at Slangs on Sports. Not that I need to, shout out Sarah Langs. Most swings and misses by a pitcher in the MLB debut, pitch tracking era since 2008. You got Jared Jones, top of the rotation arm with 22. Johnny Cueto, top of the rotation arm with 21. Shota Imanaga finished 5th in Cy Young voting last year with 20. Alex Colomé, don't worry about him. Then Trey Yesavage, 19 whiffs. That is just remarkable in basically any way that you slice it. This is a guy that was going to bring something to the Jays that maybe nobody else in the entire system could bring, and that was elite strikeout stuff. And, Bieber brings a lot of really exceptional tools, but he's not quite the strikeout artist. Kevin Gausman brings a lot of tools. He's not quite the strikeout artist. Barrios, Bassett bring a lot to the table, not strikeouts particularly. Scherzer, not the same guy he was 5, 10, 15 years ago, not the same strikeout artist. Trey Yesavage, among minor leaguers just across baseball, was one of the best, if not the best. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, but to get the highest qualified Ks per 9 of any minor leaguer in baseball this year. Like, this was a guy that misses bats like so few guys in baseball, never mind in the Jays system. And to add that to the equation late in the season as a potential game-changing arm, you can't say enough about how important, how enormous that is going to be for the Jays.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when he gets called up and we're like, wow, that seems, a little dramatic or a little quick, a little surprising, and then he comes out and
Well,
does this,
yeah, it
and
was
it's
so
kind of like, well,
shocking,
I mean,
Well, I was just gonna say, I think I expressed skepticism at the
yeah.
move in our emergency pod, and shows you what I know.
Well, it's hard to sit there and expect, this guy to come up and do what he did, right? Like it was a literally unprecedented debut, and it's certainly a guy who the ability was clearly there, but at the end of the day, it's really tough to pitch in the major leagues, and for him to come out and do what he did, I think is just an enormous story. And as far as like postseason implications, I think you would feel pretty good about him at least being on your postseason roster after that.
Well, at this point, right, he's clearly going to be that guy at least for the bullpen. Now, something that we didn't discuss with Ryley that I want to bring up is the innings limit, because
Yeah.
they said that he can just go yesterday, and
Which
that
I
was
think is maybe not correct.
it's maybe a bit of a fib. Um, I mean, if you're budgeting here, if you're giving him what, I think we kind of came to the number like 120.
And that's
That's
like that's pretty
that's pretty.
that's like
That's
high end.
Yeah. He's is he at 100 already? I
He's
feel
at
like he
103.
you get 17 more innings of him. Um, I mean, you want to make him a part of your postseason rotation, but you're really gonna have to push him if you're gonna do that. So does that factor into the equation here? You think they just shut him
Yeah,
down to
well,
protect him anyways? What do you do?
I don't like postseason rotation to me is like that's probably not where this lands at the end of the day. Like even if he does come out and have like another dominant start like that, I would imagine that like the usage for him would kind of be a bullpen role. But again, we said this at the emergency pod where it's like, oh, he's going to be a reliever, and he comes up and gets a start in game one, and even entering the start last night, I was like, well, like feel like 3-4 innings is probably where this is going to land, and again, he just comes out and blows the doors away. So if they really don't have an innings cap for him, which, the whole thing about this entire season is that they were saving innings for him to use at the major league, right? So for them to say that he doesn't have an innings cap, it's just like goes against
It's just not
everything that
true.
they've said, right?
It's
Like
antithetical.
there is an innings cap somewhere or a pitches cap or something, right? And to see where that lands will be interesting. If you think about it, like if you map out um let's say another start and a relief appearance at the major league level leading into the playoffs. So let's say that's another 8 innings, right? And so we're 17 away from 120. So that would give him 9 in the postseason, which could line up fairly well. And then I'd say if you're in October and the difference between Trey Savage, the difference between you winning a World Series is Trey Savage going over his innings cap or not going over his innings cap, then you can kind of make the decision to push him over that.
Well, I get it. The idea is that you're able to save him those innings, you're able to budget those, but I just don't kind of understand then, let's say he goes another, what did we say? Let's say another 5 innings or whatever, and then you leave him with those, 9, 10, 11 innings, whatever it may be. I mean, you basically have to sit him then for almost a week and a half or 2 weeks
Well, I
after
mean,
that. I mean, that becomes part of the equation too then.
not necessarily. I mean, Jackson Jobe last year, right? Like he was in the Tigers bullpen in the postseason, and they played through the ALDS, like 5 games in the ALDS, and he only threw like 3 innings in the postseason. So, you know, like obviously you would want to use him if you have him based on what he just showed yesterday. But ultimately, if you're using him out of the bullpen in the playoffs, then the usage is going to be like 1 or 2 innings at a time. So you're not going to be like eating into that a ton.
I mean, I don't know. I understand it. I get it. I feel like the Jays have to be a little bit. There's gonna have to be some kind of some dials to turn, some levers to raise and lower in terms of how they're gonna kind of finagle this.
Yeah.
But you got to find a way to get this guy on, into the equation in the postseason.
Uh,
It's a formality, right? But they have to find a way to make him an effective and important part of this team from September 15th onward.
yeah. And again, I mean, you think about it, right? Like if it's the ALCS and Trey Yesavage has thrown 120 innings on the season, um, you're not, you know, gonna cut him off there, I would imagine. Like maybe you're very particular and intentional with the usage of Trey Savage at that point. But, again, like I think you're willing to push him a little bit past what you had probably envisioned for him, if it is going to help you win a World Series.
Well, that's the idea, right? That's what we're here for. So
Yeah.
you got to figure that there's going to be some flexibility there, but just very obviously going to be a bit of a balancing act here, bit of a high wire act.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's gonna be fun to watch. I mean, yesterday that was, I think I texted you, um, it was in the middle of like that 5 in a row strikeout. I was like, holy F. Like, wow, it was pretty crazy. I mean, the other thing too, right? Like it's the Rays who, have some good hitters, but it's not like the Yankees or one of these like elite postseason offenses. So I'll be interested to see like what the next time they use him. Obviously, they haven't announced that yet. If he like stayed on turn to start again, he would pitch on the weekend. I believe he'd pitch Saturday or Sunday, I suppose, however you want to work it with the amount of starters against the Royals. But I would be really interested to see his next outing against the Red Sox at Rogers Center.
I think, you mentioned not a postseason roster. He still took care of business against some legit dude. I mean, the way he made Brandon Lau look. This is a guy
Yeah,
that has torched the Blue Jays historically, and the way he had him looking just silly the
yeah,
whole night, and the opposite handedness, and the the lefty righty kind of splits, no pun intended. Um, Maybe worth keeping an eye on, but nevertheless, I think just the way that he was able to handle, like, those at bats to me, I think are the creme de la creme. Although, didn't get burned by like a Junior Caminero either, right? He
yeah,
took care of business there too.
yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, he'll be it's going to be crazy, as he comes out. I think the first Roger Center appearance will be electric. I've kind of been saying that all along. Um you like he's earned another start for sure.
For sure. I don't see how you can't. Now, I don't know. Again, it goes back to the innings question, but I don't know how you can't have this guy making regular starts for you at this point.
Do you would if you were in charge of, scheduling the Blue Jays pitchers, and again, this is going to be a moot point in probably a matter of
A
hours.
matter of hours.
But if you were in charge of scheduling the way that the pitching lineup is going to roll out, obviously, the way you kind of have like all five starters set to go here. So would you have him pitching Sunday in Kansas City if you have, the next 5 days you go Barrios, Gosman, Bassett, Max, Scherzer, Shane Bieber, G Savage Sunday against the
You know,
Royals,
I'm
or would you save him for that Red Sox series?
I'm looking, and I lean, honestly, I lean Red Sox for two reasons. One, I think he deserves a home start. I think you give him a home start. I think that the way he pitched today, I think he deserves it. I think, you've got the off day kind of baked in terms of being able to keep other guys on regular rest. There's enough reason to me on that front. And then the other reason is it pushes his next start back and it gives you the opportunity to limit his innings and keep him fresh. He comes up and he's on, you know, what he had pitched, what, 5, 6 days ago, whatever it was. And obviously, we're talking a little bit longer here, but it's a similar idea where it just kind of doesn't put him in a spot where he has to work on a short rest or has to work on short-ish rest or anything. It gives him lots and lots of time to basically recover. And then I think you eye up, either the Tuesday or I guess the Wednesday game, right? As you're looking at one of those, just again to just kind of keep him not necessarily in a regular kind of rotation, but just to sprinkle him in there every once in a while, just to keep him in the equation at the end of the day.
Yeah. One thing too, I kind of am on the same boat of you as like Red Sox would be an interesting landing point for his next one. Also,
The
yeah,
playoff test as well, also.
yeah,
Just
that's what I was gonna
just
say. A,
jump
a
in.
better offense. The atmosphere. I mean, it would be a huge jump from like the atmosphere that they had yesterday at George Steinbrenner Field to the atmosphere that would be at Rogers Center. But again, you're going to be, if you're wanting him to pitch in a postseason environment, then give him a quick taste of that against the Red Sox. And again, like I think how the Blue Jays are positioned will certainly play into that as well. And also, that's like over a week in between appearances for him. So, do you want to make him wait that long?
There's a,
There's
there's
so
a good
much that
chance
goes into it.
also. There's a good chance also the Jays have clinched at that point.
Yeah, well, clinched
A playoff
postseason,
spot,
maybe
not
not the
necessarily
AL
the
East, but
right.
I'm, magic number pilled now.
Exactly.
I'm dialed in on how magic numbers work. So, and I have never been dialed in on how magic numbers
Big
work.
big E equals MC squared mathematician
Love
vibes
a
right
good
now.
magic number formula, but
Oh yeah.
no. So yeah, I think certainly, if you want to keep them on like a little bit more of a normal rest, Royals, and then the atmosphere, I would imagine at Kauffman Stadium isn't going to be great the way the Royals have been playing. So I think, Red Sox kind of does line up pretty well to me, at
Yeah.
least.
I think the thing for me is that it pushes him back a little bit. I know that,
Yeah.
kind of messing with the schedule is not ideal, but I think I'd prefer just again, just saves you bullets for the postseason.
Yeah. So rest of the game, obviously, they don't give Trey Yesavage any run support. I saw somebody compare him to Paul Skeens, saying that he's the Blue Jays Paul Skeens because he's going to shove and not get any run support. But Joe Boyle, man, like what a pitching matchup last night. Like it was Yesavage was getting whiffs left and right. Joe Boyle was throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs in the zone, which he hasn't really done much this year. And obviously the Jays once again another comeback from down 1-0. You get the Tyler Heineman bunt after the Ernie Clement double, and then Jimenez brings him in, and then the ninth, or sorry, the extra inning dramatics, and Braden Fisher, man, like I can't believe that he got sent down for any period of time. Like how important has he been to this Blue Jays bullpen? And once again, just steps up in a massive spot.
Is he their second best reliever? I mean, maybe not second best on pure
So
talent,
talent
but
level.
on pecking on me, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to word this. Obviously Jeff Hoffman is your reliever ace. He is your ninth inning guy. He is your closer. After him, though, if we're talking like pecking order, if we're talking, talent, if we're talking, whatever it is, like it's hard to articulate exactly what I'm
I
referring to.
think so. Here's
Is he
here's
number two?
here's what I'll say. I think based on pure results, Braden Fisher has been the best Blue Jays reliever this season, based on results.
100%.
By, talent level, he was, shielded earlier in the season, right? So certainly, as, you face better hitters, certainly that kind of changes. And for him, I think, if you sort Blue Jays relievers by Sierra, not including Chris Bassett's lone relief appearance, Braden Fisher is number one at 2.66, which is, a pretty good ERA estimator. So it's a guy that's deserves like high leverage spots. Like the talent level is obviously there. The stuff is good. Um, if I had to like rank them by like pure talent level, like I don't know if I would go number two, but the way that he's pitched, like it's hard to deny that he has been one of the most valuable relievers on this team and has gotten the results to go along with it.
And I think the other thing too yesterday,
And he's
the
gotten 7 wins.
fastball. What was that?
And he's gotten 7 wins.
Exactly. Yeah, we love a good pitcher win. We're big pitcher win podcast. No, the fastball yesterday too. This is not a guy that generally throws that pitch very much because it's not his best pitch. The curveball and the slider obviously are the bread and butter. But he was working the fastball up in the zone and it was fooling guys, which is so different from him.
Yeah, 4 swings on 8 fastballs and 4 whiffs yesterday.
Pretty good, pretty
The
good.
the thing with like the fastball yesterday is like the location on it was so good, right? Like he was spotting it at the top of the zone, like not on the black, not a little bit below the black, like right above the black, where again, if hitters are looking for like kind of that curveball that pops and you see that fastball coming at the top of the zone, you kind of got to be ready for it to drop. So I think, he threw it really well. Um, and I think again, like it's not 97, 98, 99. It's 94, 95, 96. Um, but like when you put it where he put it, like you're gonna get good results.
Good luck,
So
you know.
yeah, incredible season from him. Like just obviously the Kevin Biggio trade last year, he's kind of the throw-in for that, and they figure out a way to get him to this point. And like, Trey Savage is a huge development win for the Blue Jays, but like this Braden Fisher stuff, like that's a pretty big development win
Might
as well.
might arguably be in terms of a pure development win, might even be bigger just based on the going from a throw in to a key leverage piece versus
Yeah.
obviously the pedigree that you Savage had coming in, right? Like this is a guy molded, created by the Toronto Blue Jays, I think. I think that's the best way that you could put it.
Yeah, and I mean, overall, like just how about the bullpen in general too recently? Obviously, everybody kind of has their panic at the end of August and in August in general, where the bullpen was like the worst in baseball. But I mean, the group has like really stabilized here in September, and like really credit to them. The Hoffman stuff certainly, I've said certainly a lot this episode, but it is concerning. the fastball yesterday, there's a couple like 93s
Yeah,
running out
that was.
there. No, like nothing over
He
96.
did touch. Did he get to 96? I think he
He
threw
did not.
nine. No, he was 95 a couple
I
times.
got to petition the broadcast to stop rounding up.
Yes, I've also noticed that. I would like some decimal points, please. Please
Yes.
provide me with the closest tenth of 100.
Yeah, I want to see 95.8. I don't want to see 96. And also get rid of the box.
Well, next year, hopefully.
Is it really? Is that a thing?
You got to figure if they're going to be bringing in the K zone or whatever it is for the ABS, then the K zone loses all meaning because it's not a whatever.
Yeah,
Anyways,
anyway, yeah. But yeah, like I mean, even yesterday, right? Like Varland, just the shift. Like I mean, the guy had been so good in Minnesota, and he comes over and you alter his pitch mix to have him go two, and you bring him over, and all of a sudden, he's throwing his other pitches. Yesterday kind of does get helped out by a couple of amazing plays by Addison Barger and Andres Jimenez. But he's been looking better as soon as when he's started to throw these other pitches. The changeup has been nuts. He throws that thing 94. They were talking a lot on the broadcast about like Joe Boyle throwing 94 mile per hour splitters, but how about Louis Varland throwing 94 mile per hour changeups? Like kind of in the same vein there. And Dominguez and Little were both good as well. So I mean, the bullpen has really turned it around, and I think this was kind of the thing that we were talking about in August, where we're like, well, I mean, better to go through this now than it is in late September.
yeah, they're coming into the postseason or at least the stretch run hot, right? So that's all you can really ask
Yeah.
for. And yeah, what is it? Six, seven scoreless at six, right? I'm trying to do the math in my head here.
For the
Needless to
bullpen, it
say,
was six. Yeah.
yeah, like that's what else can you ask for? Just an incredible outing by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, obviously, you Savage strikes out nine by himself, but then, the bullpen adds on nine as well. So,
Yeah, it
pretty,
was
pretty
the
incredible.
most strikeouts by the Rays in any single game this season. Like
Really?
they
Wow.
diced them up.
Yeah. Mentioning Jimenez, obviously, interesting point there because he's playing shortstop, which relates to the Bo Bichette news that we got yesterday, where he's going to get a second opinion on his knee because he has a left PCL strain. He's going to see like the Cowboys doctor, which there's certainly a couple theories flying around about that. He
Is one of them that he's gonna be starting in place of Dak or something?
Yeah, he's the congrats on the Cowboys. They've got a new running back.
Yeah, no, you know what it is? He's their Micah Parsons replacement. Excuse me.
Pass
Yeah,
rusher.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely has that build, right?
The speed wouldn't play at running back. So seeing, I mean, there's two ways that I think you can choose to interpret this. One of them is that Bo Bichette is in a contract season and he wants to be certain that his knee is okay to push down the stretch before he signs a life-changing contract. And the other is that Bo Bichette's knee is severely injured and that they are hoping for a better diagnosis.
I mean, I think I mentioned the Isaiah Kiner-Falefa news on podcast.
No,
I
we
don't
actually haven't talked
remember.
about that. It was just in the
Okay,
chat.
so Isaiah Kiner-Falefa the other day on the Deep Left Field podcast with Mike Wilner basically says it's a tough blow, and hopefully we go deep enough in the postseason, keywords deep enough, for him to be a contributor. That sounds like 6 weeks. That sounds ungood. And now this news kind of affirms that this is not a good prognosis. I mean, is he going to be able to play through it? I mean, he played through it right off the hop, but it kind of sounds like the diagnosis was worse than the symptoms. So I don't know exactly what the situation is here. None of us do, but I don't see any way you can spin this as a positive. I think that I get it, he's going to try to push through it in a contract season. No pitcher has ever gone for a second opinion, and I know he's not a pitcher, but no player goes for second opinions because they just loved the first diagnosis so much they want worse news. Um, this is this is suboptimal to say the least. Now, with that said, Andres Jimenez should have been playing shortstop from the get-go if he's going to be playing like this. You feel a little bit more confident about what next year maybe brings. That's maybe a different discussion, but I mean, he has not looked out of place, and he's looked more than capable of filling in for Bo, at least on the defensive side. And I mean, you know, is is a guy like a Davis Schneider, is an Anthony Santander going to bring the same offensive output as a Bo Bichette? No. But I think in the aggregate, you might be able to protect yourself a little bit in terms of keeping a solid bat in there at second base or shuffling guys around and getting enough offense into the lineup and upgrading on the defensive side with Jimenez.
I mean, they're what, like 8-2 without Bo now or something like that. Like it's, or I mean, 8-2 since he went down, or something like or 8-4, or some kind of winning record. Um, yeah, Jimenez has looked great there. I think obviously the concern is like Bo has been such a good hitter this year, and when the pitching gets tougher, like you want your
You
best
want your
hitters
stars.
hitters in the lineup, right? Like they're going to be the ones that are going to step up in big moments and kind of have, just the general talent level to hit good pitching. I think of, the Tiger series where they Bo like has the huge at bat that puts Skubal out at the start, right? Like I believe it was 10 or 11 pitches, and he, chases Skubal with a great at bat. And that's the kind of thing that you would love to have in October. So it's concerning that he's going to go for the second opinion. They said that they're hoping that they're, just doing their due diligence, but at the end of the day, it's tough to like know what exactly is going on, because that's not something that they are going to say out loud.
Yeah, skeptical, I think is the word I would use. A little skeptical
Yeah.
of that being the prognosis.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, we're thinking general news, obviously back in Tampa for this 3-game series. Anything else like you're specifically watching for this week as it pertains to the Blue Jays and their magic number is 4 for clinching a playoff spot.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably more of the same. I'm thinking keep an eye on the pitching. Bullpen's had a good stretch here. Like to see that continue. A little concerned yesterday that they only kind of just scraped by on offense. I feel like the sticks have been okay at times. Obviously, they popped for I think it was 11 runs on Sunday, but outside of that, there's been some highs and lows in terms of production. Just keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, it's you want to be hot going into the playoffs. You want to be swinging it well as you're going into the series. But again, if the Blue Jays can clinch a bye, then you're not going to be super concerned about how they're playing, because you're going to have a little bit of a layoff, and then you ramp it up for game one of the ALDS at home.
Rust and rust. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, if that's all for you, Jory, we will slide over to our conversation with Ryley Delaney, a writer at Jays Nation, as we dive further into the Trey Yesavage debut.
This episode of the Bird's Eye View podcast is brought to you by BioSteel. Use code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order at biosteel.ca. Again, that's code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order. For all your high performance hydration needs, visit biosteel.ca. Thank you again to BioSteel for sponsoring today's episode.
We have a very special guest today. It is Ryley Delaney of Jays Nation. Ryley, welcome back to the show, and thanks for taking the time to do this today.
No problem. Anytime.
So obviously, I mean, a very exciting time for Blue Jays fans, Blue Jays prospect followers, and I'm sure, for you, very exciting to see Trey Yesavage make his way to the majors in just a little bit over a calendar year. Recently, you just have him ranked as the top prospect in the Blue Jays organization on your list at Jays Nation. What was it like for you to kind of see that debut, and how excited were you just in general when you heard that he got the call to the majors?
I feel like at a certain point in the season, you kind of expected it from all the noise that we heard. It was like, oh, yeah, Savage may be up this season. And then you saw his last out in Buffalo, and it's like, he's probably going to be called up soon. Worked out really well because it was yesterday, September 15th, that I ranked him first. Like that's when the article came out, so it worked out really well. It's probably the best debut since Manoa, probably even better. I mentioned that before, but it's just he was electric and dominant. I think that's the two words to describe that out in last night.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 5+ innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, a Blue Jays franchise record, and 19 whiffs to go along with that. I mean, the splitter looked great. The fastball, obviously he struggles the first 2 hitters. He gives up the single to Chandler Simpson and then the run scoring double from Yandy Diaz. And of course, everything that we've seen from Trey Yesavage is every level that he's gotten to this year, he's kind of struggled out of the gates and walks a couple guys. So, there's probably a little bit of a feeling, oh boy, here we go again once he gives up those 2 runs, but really settled in nicely from there. I mean, for you, just kind of as going through that start, what were you most impressed by for him to, bounce back and end with the debut that he had?
He didn't look nervous, I'd say, like before coming into that game. So like any new level, I think he had like a 28 walk percentage around there. So he didn't look nervous, and that splitter was insane. Like that's the best I've ever seen it easily. Um, didn't look nervous, pitched well. After the first inning, man, it was just insane. I think is really the best word to describe him.
How do you, I suppose, it's that was obviously an incredible start. I'm struggling to come up with the words that I just, to me, it was almost like so shocking how well how surprised, I guess, were you by how successful a start that was?
Very surprised. I mean, I thought he was gonna struggle in his first start because again, like at every level he had, but after that first inning, he just settled in, didn't show any nerves, kept getting whiffs, and it's like, maybe this guy should be in the playoff rotation. I don't know.
Well, that's the obvious question is, after one start, can you make a proclamation like that? Because to me, obviously you got Bieber, obviously you got Gosman, but there's all this kind of mystery about who the third guy might be. There's the injury concerns about Scherzer. Bassett's been up and down this year. Barrios has been a different level of up and down this year. Can you make a declaration like that after one start?
I think I'd give him one more. I don't know when his next turn would be, probably Saturday or Sunday, but I think one more start, see how he does. If he does like he did yesterday, I think you have to. And then I think Bassett number four, maybe Scherzer number five if you need a fifth starter. I think that's how it would go.
I mean, obviously, I don't want to like put don't want to get ahead of ourselves, don't want to get over our skis as far as it comes to Trey Savage, 22-year-old who, is already at a career high in innings after yesterday's. He's over 100 on the year. Um, what do you kind of think that he needs to do? Like, I mean, obviously yesterday's so successful, and certainly, if he's gonna be run out again, it's gonna be against the Royals or the Red Sox or something like that. But I mean, what do you kind of need to see from him in another start to even, consider him for a playoff rotation? I think, it would be certainly a bold move for them to put him ahead of some of the veterans that they have, but what would he need to do to like firmly kind of put himself in that conversation?
Probably the same level of dominance. If he falters in the next start, then it's like, okay, he may not be ready at least for the starter rotation. Maybe he can pitch out of the bullpen to give them some length. But if he pitches, like I said, like if he pitches like he did last night, I mean, what can you do? Maybe it's like you can even put up ahead of Bieber if you're being very aggressive. But I'd say it's up for the grab. It's up for taking, and whoever pitches well enough to take it gets it. And I think Savage is definitely possible. Like he can do that.
You mentioned that the splitter to you was the best it had ever looked. What about it yesterday you think was so successful for him?
It's downward movement. It just kept. The Rays weren't picking it up very well, and they played off well with this fastball.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was really interesting. I think out of first 2 hitters, obviously he gives up to Simpson and Diaz, and then he hadn't thrown his splitter in either of those at bats. And then I believe it's Brandon Lau comes up and he goes three straight splitters, boom, 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 sits him down, strikes him out. And you're kind of like, well, I mean, probably want to see a little bit
There's your
more of that
pitch.
pitch. Like, let's see that. And then, of course, as the night goes on, he starts to use a little bit more. He ends up throwing it 19 times and getting, I believe it was 11 whiffs with it, which is, incredible
Unreal.
on 14 swings. But one thing that's interesting is, I mean, he went pretty like fastball slider to righties and then fastball split to lefties. Um, I mean, do you think that it's something that he should be looking to, go like splitter more often, despite regardless of, the handedness of the hitters?
Um, I think he should be open to trying it, but I mean, if he pitches like that again, like why fix with what's working, Like why try to tinker with it? But I mean, it's a weapon against all handedness, which is it's nice to see. It's a good pitch.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think too, with kind of the debut and everything about it, a nice like kind of landing spot for him. Obviously, the Rays aren't the most formidable team right now. They've kind of been struggling. Obviously, you get the start in the minor league park, which again, the atmosphere, is a little different than what it would have been at Rogers Center for his debut.
Yeah.
And I think too, just kind of getting your feet wet there and being able to kind of come out and have his family there. The shots on the broadcast were obviously great of the family. You get the dad crying, everything like that. Do you like how do you kind of expect him to move on from this? What would your expectation be for a next appearance?
I would love to see the status quo, but I mean, again, he could falter. Like he's 22. It'll be a second start. Like it's definitely possible that he runs into a little bit of a wall, but it's you also want to see how he bounces back, especially like if it happens in playoffs, how are you gonna react to that? But I mean, I would love the status quo. I would love to see him do it again. It'd be great.
Well, it seems kind of like everything about the start really just went well. I want to dig in a little bit into that first inning because we saw that, they got to him a little bit early and then obviously things settled down to say the least. If that first inning gets out of hand and things kind of go haywire, I think we're having a totally different discussion. Uh,
Absolutely.
but but what do you think if there's one thing that he could maybe have done differently in terms of, executing better? Maybe he wasn't locating something. Maybe he wasn't getting as much whiff on a different pitch, Like obviously everything really went really well. But I would just be curious if you saw something that maybe piqued your interest in terms of just a something to keep an eye on.
I'd probably say throw the splitter more and then locate those two pitches. Like they weren't like impressive hits. They kind of just found a hole. So yeah, probably locate better, which he did the rest of the game. So it's like you look back at the first and it's like, yeah, he gave up an earned run. Yeah, it kind of cost him the win, like the win. But I think the fact that he rebounded from that inning is very good because I think he was at like 20 pitches after the first inning. And I think he ended up throwing like just under 70. So it's it's good to see him rebound. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from the first inning. But like if you want to avoid that type of first inning, location on your pitches and throwing the splitter more was probably what he should have done.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, obviously, the two hits happen. There's like that really kind of in between play that Jimenez makes, and I know, John Morosi tweeted out that it was like kind of a outing saver or something, along those lines. And I don't like necessarily disagree with that sentiment, right? Like it is you get a big league defender behind you making a good play to kind of help you get an out, and then Tyler Heineman also comes out, kind of seems to calm him down a little bit. What do you think the difference is for him, kind of being able to pitch in this environment and all of a sudden, obviously you come from the minor leagues where the defense is certainly never all that consistent, safe to say. And then you have a big league catcher as well, kind of working with you there. I mean, like how much of a difference would have that been for him to pitch with that team around him?
Definitely a big difference. Like errors happen, but you don't really there's a different level of consistency in the big leagues rather than the minor leagues. So having defense, which was spectacular last night, even I think it was towards the latter end of the game when Barger made that catch and then Jimenez also made the play. Um, Probably doesn't see that much in the minor leagues. Um, and again, it got him out of the inning. Heineman did a great job too on the plate. I think Kirk would have done well too. It's really good. Like I think that helped a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I think it was Buck that kind of noted that Heineman was like holding his target point a little bit longer for Yesavage as well, which, really kind of interesting, like like almost a vet move by Heineman to be like, hey, I know that you have a little bit of control issues, maybe your first couple times out or just in general. Like, here's your target. Like, here it is. Like, I'm gonna
Just
keep it here. I'm
just
not
throw
moving
it.
it. Yeah, exactly. Just kind of
Let
help
the
him out.
stuff
So.
play.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's almost like the Bowden Francis thing from last year where he said, um, to put it nicely, trust your stuff and let it eat or whatever, right? Like kind of that sentiment from Heineman with him there. And I'm sure that was kind of what they were telling him throughout the outing too. So really cool there. And I think, even the post game stuff where he's Savage saying that it's as special as he thought, and then it feels like I think he said, there's a trance over him that helped him feel peace when he's on the mound. Just really cool to kind of see a guy make his debut. And I think, you mentioned like most memorable debut since Manoa. I think it's certainly up there, and it's really cool when we haven't seen this type of thing happen for the Blue Jays recently. I guess we can kind of move on from Savage into some of your top 50 list, just kind of the finishing of it, as you mentioned, kind of coming out the same day as Savage's debut. And I think the really interesting list, obviously very difficult task to put that list together. Top 50 never easy. You Savage number one, obviously, and I don't want to give away all your list, but I do wonder for you putting it together. Did you have any specific players that you were most not like you weren't like planting your flag on, but almost like in a way saying I'm making a statement by putting this guy that high.
Mm, I mean, for me, it was probably the hardest list that I think I've made. This was my seventh time ranking. I think this was definitely the hardest that I've ever ranked. Um, I really like Jay Cook.
Okay,
I think
yeah.
he ranked ninth. The hit tool is great, the speed is great, the defense is great, but I think he's like 6'3". If he can develop any type of power, that's like it's really good big leaguer. Um, I really like the rebound that Tucker Tillman has had. I think since June he's been like a 120 WRC hitter.
Yeah.
Really nice to see him rebound. There's new players to it. Jackson Hornung ranked 49th. He's had a good year, showing off some power. Um, David Beckles, he essentially helped. He was the main piece of their FCL championship. Uh, Two relievers that went back to back were Yandere Roas and Javen Coleman. The former is going to the AFL. Javen Coleman especially is disgusting. I think that's the best word to describe him. Eddie Micheletti Jr. is another really good player. I think he's had a great year. Powers there as well, showing off a great eye at the plate. It'll be interesting to see how he transitions to Double A. Uh, Riley I ranked high again. I think it was 20th. Another good player, utility player with some power. I think maybe next year he makes an attempt at the big leagues.
Yeah.
I want to touch on kind of the top of the list a little bit here. Notice they had Gage Sandifer ahead of Johnny King, and I don't know how many times I've really seen that. What about Gage is most exciting to you? Because we've heard the kind of tossed around by a few people that, he's in the Trey Savage discussion.
I've always I've always had an inkling that the breakout was going to happen because I remember seeing clips of him in the winter of 2022 where he's just throwing like upper 90s with the disgusting splitter. I kind of had an inkling. I think I put him into like potential breakout articles, and then it finally happened this year, and he's just been dominant. Um, he's top 10 in strikeouts and strikeout rate. Just a gross pitcher, especially if he can control the walks a little more. I think he's a legitimate top 100 prospect already, and I think he's going to get a lot more recognition next year.
Yeah, it was really incredible year for him. Obviously, the great start, and then the way that he finished in Vancouver was just amazing. The way he was attacking the strike zone, like just really amazing to watch him, transform into this guy who's working deep into games consistently, and almost in a way doing what Trey Yesavage did last night.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really cool to see him. I certainly think probably you're maybe a little bit ahead of the curve here, and there'll certainly be some people playing a little bit of catch up there. But one thing that I think is really, kind of like an underrated topic of conversation. I mean, everybody's kind of like talked about it, but maybe not necessarily kind of the why is like obviously the Arjun Amala struggles in the second half and the way that he kind of finished the year. Pretty disappointing for him to go from, the guy that we
Yeah.
saw at the start of the season where he's, leading the league in doubles and at the top of the league in home runs, and then to finish the year with a sub 100 WRC plus in Vancouver. I mean, what did you see from him as far as the kind of fall off in the second half?
I mean, there's some like it's mainly the fact that the league is so small. There's five other teams in that league, and he's like not even 20 yet. So I think it's just like the other league, like the other teams in the league adjusted to him. Um, he didn't hit nearly as well, but I think it's not something that anyone should be like severely concerned about. Like, yeah, like it didn't look great, but it's like there are reasons to why he struggled in the second half. I think he'll be fine.
For sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, he's 19, so definitely not writing anybody off at that age,
Yeah,
especially a guy
it's
with that
usually
talent level.
you're in single lane when you're 19.
Still
So
Yeah.
lots of time for him for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Last one for you, Riley, here before we let you go. Not like kind of related to the prospect list, but obviously, Aurelvis Martinez, we talked a little bit about it before hitting record here, officially gets released by the Blue Jays yesterday. What was your kind of reaction to the move that they had, one, designated him for assignment, and two, essentially cut bait with him by doing so?
I mean, I was pretty surprised that they DFA'd him. I think there's other options releasing him. Like if no one claimed him, I don't really understand that move. It's been a rough year for him, obviously, but I think he can rebound. Like 2022 was a pretty rough year as well. Granted, he was like 20 in double A, but no, it's kind of surprising. I don't know what happens. It'd be nice to see him get some big league action, but I guess we'll see. I probably won't be with the Jays, which is kind of sad, but what can you do?
Yeah, it's a disappointing end for Aurelvis Martinez's time with the Blue Jays. Well, Riley, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thanks for all the insight on Trey Savage and the rest of the Blue Jays prospects. You can follow Riley on Twitter at Riley__Delaney. Once again, Riley is a writer at Jays Nation, and you can follow all of her work there. Thanks again for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, anytime.
That was our conversation with Ryley Delaney. Thanks so much for her to joining us on today's show and for all of the insight on Jays prospects and Trey Yesavage. Make sure to follow all of her work at Jays Nation and once again on Twitter at Riley__Delaney. That is going to do it for us here today at the Bird's Eye View Podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us there at the Bird's Eye View Podcast. If you're listening along on the audio provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. You can follow us all on Twitter. I am at Worden_Zach. Jori is at Jori Negin-Shecter, and the pod is at BEV_pod. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the rest of the week.